find the roots of this equation, we need to set it to be equal to 0. So I'm going to move this negative 7 over to the other side by adding it. And then we would get 3x squared plus 2x plus 7 equals 0. Now, we're basically going to be using the quadratic formula here to help us solve this. So note that we have an a value of 3, a b value of 2, and a c value of positive 7. All right, so let's get started. I just wrote out the quadratic formula there in case you forgot. So negative b would be negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times our a value of 3 and our c value of 7. And that's all over 2 times a, which is 3. Okay, so now we're going to have negative 2 plus or minus. Let's see what happens in the brackets here. We've got 4 minus 12 times 7, that's 84. And 4 minus 84 is negative 80. So we negative 80 in here over 6. Now, we can't square root a negative number, so that's why we're going to use I, the imaginary numbers here. Think of the square root of negative 80 as the same thing as the square root of negative 1 multiplied by the square root of 80. And then the square root of negative 1 we, of course, represent with the letter I. So this is going to become negative 2 plus or minus I root 80 over 6. Okay, next we're going to have to try to simplify this further, specifically looking at the square root of 80. So we can simplify that radical because I know the square root of 80 is the same thing as the square root of 16 times the square root of 5. And the reason I'm picking those numbers is because 16 is a perfect square, so we can actually square root it. So the square root of 80 can be simplified to 4 root 5. So back to the equation here, we'll now have negative 2 plus or minus 4i root 5. So I hope you can see what just happened there. The I is still there, and I've replaced root 80 with 4 root 5. And this is over 6. Okay, now we can still simplify this a little bit further. I can factor out a 2 from the numerator. And then we'll have negative 1 plus or minus 2i root 5 over 6. And then now the 2 and the 6 can be reduced, just divided by 2. So now what we're left with, sorry I'm really running out of space here, is negative 1/3 plus or minus 2i root 5 over 3. And that would be our simplified answer. You notice that what I just did there is I took the denominator and wrote it to be underneath both of these terms in the numerator. All right, so looking at our potential answers, what we got matches option number 3. All right, that's all for this video, and thanks for visiting JD's Preparation.